Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts, and in today's video we're going to be making a tuxedo decorated box, and I've created the trays and the outer covers in two styles. So we have this style where the box opens like so and is a normal tray in the bottom. And then also, although undecorated, I'm just going to show you how to quickly work out the measurements for a sleeve / matchbox style box. So without further ado, let's get into the project. You can make the box base any size to suit your gift, and the calculations for your size of card that you need to start with are relatively simple. So for instance, if I decide that I want to have a box which is 4 inches by 3 inches and 1 inch deep, I'm going to need a piece of cardstock which is 1 inch plus 4 inches plus 1 inch, so 6 inches times 1 inch plus 3 inches plus 1 inch, 5 inches. It's as simple as that. So my starting piece of cardstock for a normal regular tray is going to be 6 inches by 5 inches. If I decide that I want a reinforced box, which I'm going to show you how to make, all I need to do is I need to add an additional 1 inch on that side and an additional 1 inch on that side, so that becomes 8 inches, and then an additional 1 inch on that side and an additional 1 inch on that side, so that becomes 7 inches. And you decide, depending on the weight of your gift, which outer cover you decide to go with, whether you want to do a normal tray base or whether you want to go for a reinforced base. So let's make the normal tray base. I have my piece of cardstock which measures 5 inches by 6 inches, and all I'm going to do all the way around is I'm going to score at 1 inch. Score at 1 inch, rotate the cardstock, score at 1 inch, rotate the cardstock, and if we take our ruler just to demonstrate, the inner measurement between the first and the second score line is 4 inches, and this way it's 3 inches. So that's going to give us our 4 inch by 3 inch base. To make up the tray, we're going to fold and burnish the score lines. My box is going to fit in the sleeve or the cover in a portrait, so I've cut up the right hand score line on this shorter side, so that when my box side comes together, my raw edge is going to be sitting in towards the sleeve or the box cover rather than towards the front. So we're going to do that on both ends. Then we want to cut a wedge from our tab. Then we're going to add glue to the top face of our tab, fold our tab under and secure our tray in place, ensuring that we get a nice right angle on the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and put my tray together. And here we have our basic tray. For our reinforced box, we're starting with a piece which measures 8 inches by 7 inches, and we're going to score at 1 inch and at 2 inches. Rotate the cardstock 1 inch 2 inches, again we're going to fold and burnish all the score lines. And what we're going to do is around the outer side we're going to cut up the second score line and up the third score line. Rotate the cardstock, cut away the corner, like so, cut down within the second row and cut away this corner. Cut away a slight wedge. So to repeat on this side, cut all the way down through to the second score line. Cut all the way down to the second score line. Rotate the cardstock, cut away this corner, cut away this corner, and we're left with our second tab. So our corner ends up with the L shape cut away. Cut our wedges into here, and as long as you end up with this shape, you cut along your score lines in whichever way you're most comfortable with. And I'm sure if I go back and look at this video, I've cut each of those corners slightly different, but no matter which order I've cut along my score lines, I've ended up with all the corners. So my tabs are opposite and I've got nothing at this end here. All we're going to do now is we're going to construct our base, and I'm going to use quick grab glue for my tabs, fold my corners up, and I just want to make sure I get a nice right angle. Do the same on the other end, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my construction glue, because that will give some strength to the sides of the box. I'm going to add construction glue to my remaining sections. Fold those down and secure that inside. Use my scoring tool just to burnish. And what I would suggest you do, either folding them all down at once, before you glue any more down, just push them in and test that you don't need to cut any off of these sides in order for the box to sit snugly together. You can see here, hopefully, there's a slight bit of overhang in that corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull that out, turn that round, and I'm just going to cut a sliver. Again, add my construction glue, and I shall follow that process all the way round. I'll just test each additional side as I stick it down before I apply the glue, just to make sure that it is going to sit nicely inside. And then after each side is got the glue, push it down, and I'm just going in with my score tool. There's our inner reinforced tray. So we've got our standard, which you can see It's exactly the same cardstock, and then our reinforced, which has got a lot less give, and certainly by the time the construction glue is dried, will have a lot less give on the sides than this one. So you decide which tray you want to make depending on the gift that you're going to give. So first of all, we'll make a super simple sleeve, which is going to need to be approximately, for the sleeve, is going to need to be 4 inches, 8.5 inches. The join for our sleeve is going to be at the back. I'm going to do my first score line at 1.5 inches. Now, I always feel that rather than giving a set of score lines, because everyone uses a different score tool and they will use different card thicknesses, and in my personal opinion it does make a difference. Up with the score line, which is like so, lay my tray on the top, and I just feel that if I wrap it around gently and pinch as I wrap, this means I've got more chance of making sure my score lines are in the right place. So I've got my rough wrap here. I'm going to place the piece back in the scoreboard. So I'm going to move my card along slightly so that my score line fits with my wrap, and I'm going to do the same here. So I'm moving my card along so that my rough score line fits in a track. And these gaps here, although the height of our box is 1 inch, the distance between these score lines is actually what is about 1 1/16. So I'm going to test it again. You can see that that fits nicely. So I'm going to now burnish my score lines thoroughly, and as I do so, I'm making sure that the edges of my cardstock sits parallel over each other. I'm going to add red liner tape, and the only reason I construct the trays and the sleeves this way is because so many times I've made a tray or a box base and then found that the outer cover won't fit, and it's because I've followed the measurements that I was given rather than actually testing whether the score lines etc work with my card. I'm going to lay my box, make sure it's laid in squarely, wrap my sleeve around, and again make sure that my sleeve fits nice and square, but the sleeve fits in there nicely. So for this outer cover, I've cut a piece which is 10.5 inches by 4 inches. I'm going to put my first score line at 3 inches, and as I did with the sleeve, I'm going to go around and pinch my score lines in place like so. Reinforce those score lines on my scoreboard. So what's going to happen is my box is going to be adhered to this third panel along, like so. My box is going to be adhered to this outer cover. This is going to stay loose. My box side is going to be adhered in this panel, and then this is going to come across and is effectively going to be the cover for my box. So I can see that the sleeve fits, and I can manipulate as I'm gluing, so that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly burnish. Now I know that I want my first my full cover to come in from the left hand side and my opening to come in from this side. And what I might want to do is I might want to just cut a sliver off of this side so that it's easier to get my fingers in. Alternatively, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my circle punch, and it's just going to create me a finger notch so that when this is stuck down, this opens, and then I can get in and get this piece opened. So I'm going to go ahead and do my gluing. So there we have our box and its outer cover. The look we're going for is a tuxedo. To create our pleats, we want a piece which measures 3 3/4 by 4 inches. And along the 3 3/4 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 1/4 inches, 1 1/2 inches, 2 1/4, 2 1/2, 3 inches, 3 1/4 inches. Fold the top, the first score line as a valley fold, the second score line as a mountain fold, so our first section sits, our first score line sits behind our second score line, like so. And we want to, as we burnish this, we want to make sure that these top and bottom sides are parallel. Our third score line is a valley fold. And then our next fourth one is a mountain fold, so that folds back on top. So we have our first set of pleats. Come across to the next score line, fold that as a mountain fold. The next one is a valley fold. Another mountain fold. And finally another valley fold. And there we have our pleated shirt front. Now I'm going to adhere that to the front of my box panel. Again, I'm going to use red liner tape. There's our shirt front. For the bow tie, I'm going to use my envelope punch board. And I've got a strip of cardstock which is 6.5 inches by 1 inch. I'm going to lay my strip in so that my edge is, so my end lines up with 1 1/4. And I'm going to move along to 3 1/4. I'm going to flip the card over and again line up the edge with 1 1/4 and punch. So I've now got my 3 notches. I'm going to flip the card over and do exactly the same. I'm then just going to place my 2 ends in. I'm going to use my score tool and I'm just going to lightly curve these 2 sections, and I'm going to fold in the 2 outer end notched pieces into the middle and back, So my bow now sits like so. I'm going to add a little bit of glue and glue my bow together. I've then cut a thin strip which is approximately 3/8 of an inch wide, and I'm just going to lay that around the front of the bow tie and just secure that in place. That will sit on the front of my box. And finally I'm going to add some buttons to the front. I would have preferred to add real buttons, but I didn't have any suitable. I've just added some little gems to the front just to finish the front off. I've added Velcro to the inside of the box. Again, I would have preferred black Velcro. I don't have any of that, so I've had to use what I had in my stash. But this obviously then closes and is how the box is secured. So you can use this decoration for either the opening box or the sleeve type. They would look, the front is going to essentially look exactly the same, and I think it's a really versatile decoration. I hope you've enjoyed watching today's video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, thanks for watching.